Have you ever been swept away by music or a piece of art, so much so that you kind of lost yourself and felt connected to something bigger? What is that feeling? And how is it connected to the creative act? In the creative realm, this is often referred to as the ecstatic, and it's a state where we transcend ourselves and are transported somewhere as part of connecting to the art. It takes us beyond ourselves. It's our revelation and exploration. It's something new. In this video, we're going to unpack what the ecstatic is and how it connects to the creative, how artists and creative have used it and referred to it, how they often talk about kind of being connected to something bigger or being outside of themselves, whether they expressed it as something like flow state or just feeling connected to the muse, the universe, God, whatever words they choose to put on it. We're going to unpack a little bit of that, how you can connect to it and how you can use it in your art and creativity. My first experience of kind of being transported out of myself in reference to experience a piece of art was actually when I was a kid in primary school, and Miss Montgomery came in and was doing a music appreciation class. And this is probably 40 years ago now. That'll tell you how old I am. But also, if you look at other titles in my video, it's pretty clear to say I'm in my 50s, so you don't even have to do the maths. And she came into class and she played this piece by Modest Mussorgsky called Pictures at an Exhibition. And it's this kind of lilting promenade as you're walking around the exposition, interspersed with kind of these vignettes, descriptive musical pieces that, you know, either go on kind of raging, surging highs or menacing kind of sounds or light kind of floral themes. But I was taken away. I was transported. And it wasn't just a thinking piece. It was, I felt it. I could feel myself walking around. I could feel the lightness. I could feel the exploration. I could feel the trepidation at the heavier, darker pieces. And so much so that, like, when I went home, I rooted through my parents' record collection and couldn't find it there and insisted we go to the library, and eventually found it on cassette at one of our local libraries and listened to it again and again. Didn't quite have that same transportative experience when I re-listened to it, but it definitely connected me to something. I definitely sensed something really powerful in the work, powerful in the interpretation. You know, what had a Russian composer in the 1800s thought? And I believe it was a piece about, you know, losing his friend and creative artist who was a contemporary of his who died young, and he'd always been inspired by his work, and he wrote this piece to celebrate his life. I knew none of that at the time, but it just was a transportation, a way to take me out of something. Now, I've experienced that many, many times through books, watching films, being at gigs or music festivals. But the most recent one was just on Sunday. So just a couple of days ago, Rival Consoles was here on the second date of his European tour. He's about to launch a new album, and he was playing in the city centre, and myself and my friend Paul, who I'm in a band with, went along, and we were feeling tired. Like, on Friday we'd even discussed not going, But we kind of dragged ourselves out and went to do it, and thankfully got to stand really close to the front, and just the waves of music just washed over me. And it was a kind of tough week on a personal level here. We had a family health issue, not with anyone in the house, but there was a lot going on. And Ryan, Rival Consoles, he picked us up and tossed us around like rag dolls and took us on a journey. And it was pretty kind of ferocious start to it. It was pretty hectic, but between the visuals and the music, there was definitely a sense of being connected to something bigger. There was a wildness, and the whole crowd seemed to get connected to it. Now, I turned around and had a look, and yes, there was moments where the crowd were connected, but there's definitely times when I was too lost to even be looking for the crowd. And I think part of that was my headspace going into it, having had a big emotional week. It's funny, I came home and I said to my wife that it felt like church. It felt restorative. It felt healing. And it was a beautiful experience. This isn't just a feeling that I have. I'm sure lots of you have been lost in the music, in the art, out in nature. But also in Rick Rubin's book, The Creative Act, he refers to the ecstatic, and he talks about the fact that it's not a thinking thing at all. It's a body experience. It's the goosebumps, the shivers, the heart racing, sometimes tears for no logical reason. It just rises up inside you and overwhelms you, and there's this primal feeling. It's not cerebral. And if you're a very controlled person, it might be something that you don't engage in or find often, but it does happen. And often sometimes when we truly get into that sense of flow, either in our own practice, making art, making music, listening to music, I do think there's a connection that when we're listening to music, when we're dancing, we've already let go a little bit. The music is moving us, and I think it's a little bit easier to allow our brains to surrender. I think that's a good word. I think one of the reasons it's deeply connected to creativity and why people talk about it is just that idea of surrender. Creativity is often about surrender. It's like we surrender to the work flowing through us. It's not that it's necessarily our work. Like I've talked before about the idea of having an antenna, and Liz Gilbert's TED talk where she, talks about like having to chase the work, but being a vessel for it. It's almost like the work is seeking someone to work through and get itself down onto a page, or get the idea solidified. It's like, I guess one word is a channel. It's like we channel the ideas, we channel the thoughts, we channel the art, we channel the creativity through a pen, through an instrument, through your camera lens, whatever your method for working is. Rick Rubin talks about this idea of the nudge. And it's often when you're in a place of chaos, or maybe your project, or piece is looking a bit chaotic, there's pieces all over it, you've gotten the seeds, you've pulled in the ideas, you've been pulling on threads, you've been weaving little things together, and it doesn't feel like it fits. But then there's the idea of this nudge, the slightest nudge in a different direction, and suddenly the pieces of the jigsaw start to fall into place. They land, they show you a bigger vista. You're starting to get closer to the end. And I think that's a really important part of it, because I think it's connected to that. Definitely for me on Sunday night, watching Ryan up on stage, you know, taking us on a journey, I came home all sorts of fired up to want to make music. I'd even left my gear out set up so when I came home I could just put on a pair of headphones, almost anticipating, expecting to feel that way. And then yesterday I made a little bit of time to start, you know, making some music and working on it. And even in that, it was transportive. Like time disappeared. I got into that flow state. No, not for long. But definitely I think, you know, being there and being connected, I think is, you know, wonderful to take something out of the chaos and to be able to pull it into a form, a recognizable form, and something new. Have you ever had a moment where your body knew before your mind could catch up? Or where something moved you so deeply that it didn't make sense, but you knew that it was important anyway? I'd love to hear about that in the comments, just so we can share a little bit more of our experience around that. And remember, it's not about logic, it's just about kind of listening to what moves you and what's important. And even if you don't share it with me, like, put it in your journal, bring it to your practice when you're working. But I think it'd be wonderful to hear some of your stories. The Ecstatic is a reminder that creativity and your practice is not just about logic. It's not about thinking. It's not about skill or effort. It's about openness and surrender and being willing to show up. And sometimes we just need that nudge and to see where it takes us. And as always, you can't be listening out for this nudge, or you can't be available if you're too busy on your phone, if you're too busy scrolling, if you're too caught up in the crazy news and drama that's going on out there. So if you'd like some help to get away from your phone, there's a link in the description for my Space for Creativity starter kit, which is a video around a digital detox. There's a worksheet around there. And then a couple of days later, I will email you the 7 types of rest PDF, which is linked to a video where I share how we can start to restore ourselves and get ourselves into, build a better foundation, get ourselves into a better place to be creative and ready for those nudges. Thank you so much for watching. I'd love to hear your experience, and YouTube is going to suggest another video for you here. And hopefully that also helps you to get creative, build creativity into your life, and get close to your practice. And if there's any way I can help you, follow up with me in the comments. Okay, take care. Have a good day. Bye.